Well, good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to the final live discussion of our International Week of Persons with Disabilities. And last but not least, I'm delighted to welcome to talk to us today Nicola McDonnell. Nicola is a Drogheda lady. I'm right in saying that, Nicola.
Yeah, right then.
An access advocate and campaigner. She's a mother of Letitia. She's a
Y-
grandmother of Keanu, and all of this achieved by the age of 38, which I'm blown away by, Nicola. And you're someone who works for Irish Realtor Association up in our Drogheda office. So we're delighted to have you here today and to talk about and celebrate you and what you
Thank you
do.
for
And
having me.
now we're delighted to. And I'll just say, as housekeeping, Nicola, just a reminder to everybody that this call is being uh, recorded, and your comments may appear. And if you uh, make a comment and it appears, it can't be deleted from the recording. So we're delighted to have you here today. And what an interesting story, Nicola. My lord, I'm blown away as someone who's 51 with the 6-year-old to meet someone who's 38 and has moved on from that one and is now onto grandparenting. Fabulous. You look great to be a grandmother.
A young granny.
A young granny. So tell us, can you give us a little bit of your background, like Letitia? So she's your
Yeah,
daughter. So
she is, and
go on. You
she's
were an early
21.
starter. She's 21. Fabulous.
She's 21 coming this year. Yeah.
And how old is Keanu?
He's 10 months now on the 10th of December. So I was only 17 having Letitia. So I was
Okay.
in the
And
middle of me leaving cert. So I was
okay.
having her.
Wow.
Yeah,
That I'll tell you. I would imagine that given that you were 17, that you're still young enough to be best friends now that she's older. I'd say you're best buddies.
well, we are now. Like for instance, we're going to Disneyland in Paris on in February for Keanu's first birthday. So herself and her partner and the child and myself are away to Disneyland now for 5 nights and 6 days. And we she takes me out for my dinner every week, and we do lovely things together every week. So we do. We're
Yeah. So
best of
there's a
friends.
reason. Yeah, best of friends. And
Yeah, yeah.
God love
Not
Keanu. And
always. It wasn't
not
always like that, John. Now,
okay.
14, the teenage years were tough for two
Yeah.
years now. The hormones all over the place and stuff like that. But that was a tough 2 years, but we got through
Yeah,
it.
do you know what? That sounds like a story that I haven't heard for the first time. It's those teenage years. I wouldn't go back to
Yes.
that age. I don't know if you would, but I wouldn't go back to that age. It's hard
No,
work
no, it
for
is.
both
Yeah.
for my parents and for me. It was hard work.
Yes,
So
yes,
I get, but
yes,
in
oh,
the
it is.
great that you've come through that and you are now best buddies. And I was just gonna say, God love Keanu and his dad, because imagine having to marshal the two of ye over in Disney.
He won't know what hit them.
I'm very jealous. I'm very jealous. As a Star Wars, Marvel, uh, anything that's kiddie fan, I'm very,
Oh,
very
yeah.
jealous.
I'm the same myself. Love it all. Bit of
So
fun,
you,
bit of
so
crack.
you were doing you were doing your leaving cert then. So
Well, I was in
did
fifth
you have to
year.
go back? Yeah.
Yeah, I was in fifth year when I got pregnant and had her, and then I had her in the June, and then I was back to school, back to sixth year in the September. So I was
Okay.
to do my last final year in
Okay. And
school.
how did you? That was a
Tough.
tough gig. That was a
It
tough
was a
gig.
tough year because I didn't get to spend all my time with her, which I am now with Keanu because I'm only working part time. So I'm
Okay.
enjoying it more with the grandson. Where
Yeah.
in when with Letitia it was straight into leaving cert, then I had to get a part time job to provide for her, and then straight into college. I went to DKIT to do hospitality skills. So it's just all go go go. So I didn't get my time with her that I'm getting with
Okay.
Keanu now. So I didn't.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, Nicola, then what that's whatever 21, 22 years ago, whatever that is the did you experience discrimination or did you experience judgment because of
Oh,
your
judgment.
circumstances?
Yeah, judgment because you're young, getting pregnant.
Yeah,
Now, and that was even from my own family. Not
yeah,
judgment, but it was hard to go and tell my parents. Not so much my mum because my mum's very soft, but my dad, and then I'm a daddy's girl, so I am. So to
okay,
go and tell him, I didn't come home for the weekend when my mum told him. So like he talked to me and he said he'd be there for me. I have a great family network and a great family support, and
Okay.
very family orientated and that. So when he got over the shock of it, and then so the two of them now, they are the best of friends because she
Yeah,
still
isn't
lives
that
at home
brilliant?
with us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah, and so you know what, kids bring so much joy. There's so much heartache in the world and stuff like that. Kids bring joy to a house, so they do.
they
They
do.
really do.
Absolutely agree with you.
Yeah,
They're hard work, but it's worth
yeah, it
every
is. It's
second of it.
what. Well,
Yeah,
I find it's the hardest job I ever had is being a parent. So I would,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have good times, but you'd have bad times as well. Tough.
Yeah, and it's funny when you say that when people say, "What do you do for a living?" It says somebody would say, "Oh, I do this." Well, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom then, and people didn't regard that as a full-time occupation.
Oh,
My God, it's a full-time occupation, parenting.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It is.
and then
Yeah,
you've got to do other jobs with it. But that's
yeah,
so
yeah,
fabulous.
yeah,
No, so that's really interesting, and it feeds into because then you and we're here to celebrate you. But if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about your backstory a little bit, Nicola, because
yeah.
like
That's no problem.
you were, I suppose it was 12 years ago when
Yeah,
you
so I was
had your
25 when I was. Yeah, 25. So I was. So
okay,
my
and
daughter was 8.
your daughter was 8, and like
Yeah.
you were saying to me here that you had a spinal cord injury from a bouncy castle.
Yeah, yeah, I was doing flips on a bouncy castle, and I instead of going down on my back, I went down on my neck, and then
Yeah.
just
Wow.
couldn't move off the bouncy castle.
Okay, okay. So that was, and we're probably putting the fear of God into any parents who are listening now because we're all tempted by
Yeah.
bouncy castles, a whole lot of
Well, they're
us. But
made for kids, John. They're not made for adults.
yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair. And okay, yeah, we'll go with your word on that one. So but Nicola, that's a huge then, um, a huge change in your life. And how did that like? You were very independent. You'd gone to college. You set yourself
Yeah, and
up
I
with
was.
Letitia, living in your own house independently. You
Yeah,
were saving for a mortgage, or I presume, or saving to buy,
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever it may be.
yeah. Saving for a mortgage. Working really hard now. I was working in the City North Hotel on the M1, so
I know it's yeah.
I was a duty manager there for 5 years, so I was yeah, very independent. Didn't need a man anyway. So and living, yeah, no, I'm living a good life and stuff, and yeah, saving for a mortgage, and then bang, then this happened. Like everyone else, anyone that had an accident, and they know like it's a big shock to the system.
Yeah.
People deal with it different. Everyone
Yeah.
deals with it different. So what's good for me might be good for someone else and stuff like that. And it's not nice when you compare yourself to other people, or you say to another person, "Oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that," and every individual, it's different,
Agreed.
and
It
everyone
really
deals
is.
with it
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
And that's an important point that whatever happens, it's not about anybody else, it's about you. But
Yes.
but
Yeah.
how did I suppose that transition then, Nicola, that was huge. But for you and
Massive,
Letitia.
massive. Yeah, both of us. Like, so we had to move back in with my parents, and
Okay.
then I was in the matter for a month in the spinal unit, and then I was transferred to Dunleary, the National Rehabilitation Hospital, where they done wonderful work, really, really and truly. But just in being there, being away from Letitia was very hard. I found that the toughest. Only seeing her weekends because she was at school all week and stuff. And
Mm,
thank God for her dad's family and for my family. I don't know what I would have done without them, like getting her to school. And my parents were coming up, and my siblings, my two sisters. So her dad's family and him would take her after school and collect her and stuff like that. So I was lucky there. But I just couldn't wait to go home to be with her again. So I couldn't.
So, so
And
in
it was
terms of
hard.
adjustment, was that your motivating? That was really your motivating
That was,
factor.
yeah, she was my motivation to get home, to be with her and to be there for her as well, because as it was hard on me, it was hard on her as well. And how I found out how hard it was not was because she was after making her first communion, and that was one of the hardest days of my life still, because I missed her first communion. Thank God I'd her dress and everything picked out, but just to miss that day, that special day, was really, really tough. So it
Mm,
was. But then a couple of months later, when I was home, it was around Christmas. I got home in the end of August. I was in Dunleary from April till August, and I got home in the September. And it was close to Christmas, and I was clearing out a bag after the Christmas holidays, and I found a letter to God they were after the class had to write a letter to God and what you would want. And I opened the letter and I read it, and it was that she wanted her mum to walk again so she could go cycling, because we used to cycle, do cycles together, and go on holidays on our own, because we were after being in Florida, Lapland, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We done
yeah.
stuff. So that was a big shock for me, to see how hurting and hurt she was, and that she was so like suffering as well.
Okay, wow. So so your
Mm.
situation, you're out of Dunleary after 3 to 4 months. You're back home. You're adjusting, and you've got this to deal with. You've got an adjustment from Letitia. Amazing that your parents have really lived through to their commitment of support.
Oh,
But that, from your
unreal.
own perspective, that was also another factor of adjustment as well. That you were now back home, like
Yeah, and that
and relying on your parents for support again, having moved out. So
Yeah, it was tough because, as I said, I was very independent. So moving back in with your parents is tough, and then all being in that one house together and stuff like that. So, and then having to get an extension built on, and like
yeah.
the pressure on my mum and dad as well, like with money and stuff like that, was tough on them as well. And I had to move in with my sister as well for a few months till the extension was built. So I
Okay.
did, and then so my mum and dad had to come to my sister and stuff like, yeah. So it was very hard for. So I'd say there's no lying. Probably the first 2 years. By the time you accepted it, it
Yeah.
was,
And had
yeah.
disability played any part in your life before that, Nicola?
No, no, John. When I used to see people with disability, mostly I didn't pass any remarks of a person walking with a disability, but like wheelchairs, I just thought was their legs. Oh, their legs didn't work, and that was it. I
Yeah.
never was around a person with a disability, or
Mm.
was never in community groups or stuff like that. I never. I just thought they can't walk, and that's it. I never thought of the other secondary things that comes, like bowel and bladder and stuff like that, and pressure sores, all that. Jesus, there's some learning.
There, look, if I'm honest, we're still learning,
Still
and
every day. Oh my
every
God,
day.
every
I
day.
always say every day is a learning day.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, you learn
yeah.
something new every day, and I believe that.
Okay, okay. And then I suppose for you, so that was an incredible time. A lot of time of adjustment. As you say, just because you're out of Dunleary doesn't mean that that process is over. Like you were
No, and
saying,
it's
it's a long journey just to come to terms and acceptance of your circumstances, I would imagine.
yes. And then just even coming back into the community, because when you're in Dunleary, you're around everyone with a disability, so you feel the same. You don't feel like anyone's looking at you or anything. But then to face come home, I'll never forget trying to come home and the thought of it, and then seeing people that I haven't seen in a couple of months and stuff like that.
Mm,
The community, and trying to just adjust to life with a disability at home, where in Dunleary everything's accessible, but when you come back home and out into the
yeah,
community, it's not it's a different ball game.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. So tell us, how did you support each other? Was it yourself and Letitia, and then maybe talk about the network that was around you as well, because that's really interesting. Sorry, this red wire from my headphones is
Yeah.
annoying me. So so just around that network, how you supported each other, and talk to the importance of that support circle.
Yeah, so as I said, I got home the end of August, and I was contacted by the RD Sports, Robbie and Kieran, and it
Yeah,
took me a few weeks to kind of get back to them, and to go to the centre. And it was the bad snow that year, so it was cancelled a few times, and I was delighted. So I was saying, yes, at least I don't have to go. At least I don't have to go. So then I did go in the January, and like it was an eye opener. So it really was. I didn't realize the amount of stuff that was there for people with disabilities, and even for my daughter. Like she started the wheelchair basketball, so she was
okay,
so
yeah. So
she
she
was
got
around.
stuck in with you.
Oh, she got stuck in with me, and you know what? The two of us learned so much. Like, and she was only 8, and then I think, like, she was like, I wasn't driving at the time. My dad was bringing me and stuff like that, and the bus was collect. But she would come to a few of the things, and she learned to take my chair out of my dad's boot and stuff like that. She learned
Yeah.
from a young age, and then she like when she was around other kids with disabilities and people's, like, she picked up on little things, and
Mm,
I think it made her a kind, like, she was a kind girl. I'm not saying she wasn't, but it
mm,
just made her more aware that people will need help in life and support. And
Yeah.
she's just brilliant now with people with disabilities and old people and stuff like that, because it made her realise, being around the IWA and the wheelchair basketball, that people do need help, and it doesn't matter what their ability or their disability is.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I always love children because they've no filter and they've no agenda.
They
So
don't.
they say it directly as it is. Like and
Mm.
honestly, it's not malicious. They just see it. They say it as
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
And from
yeah.
your perspective, was that refreshing for you as you navigated your way through the journey?
Oh, it was just fantastic, and like just the friendships that you got out of it, the support and the chat that like you could talk to the mothers of the kids or the adults that played basketball, and you can relate to little things, and you could talk in confidence, and you could not much said, like, do you know what I mean? It was really, really refreshing. So it was.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And it's just not even bocce tournaments. Like I was at the Olympics in London and stuff, brought there by the RD Sports Project and stuff like that. And things I never thought I'd get to do. Because
Okay.
when you're in Dunleary and you're in that headspace, you don't see a future. So you
Okay.
don't see a future.
Okay, and it's so and is it and I look, I was born with my disability, so my experience is different to yours, but and I suppose is it the Dunleary? I suppose at the time just you're not really looking to the future, are you at that stage? Are you
No, no,
just
oh
adjusting to
no.
the here and now?
The way, like, even when I left Matter, I never even heard of a spinal cord injury, John, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I thought I was going to walk again. And then when I got my goals and stuff like that, and I just floored me, because they were all talking about, right, you're going to need your doors widen in the house, you're going to need ramps and all that. And it actually floored me. I didn't leave the bed for the weekend. I just cried the whole weekend.
Okay.
So I did.
Okay.
So
And
yeah.
and and then when you got involved with the RD Sports Partnership through Irish Realtors Association, was sport? How do you feel how important sport is in terms
Oh,
of opening the doors to realization? And I'll let you answer that question before I go on.
yeah, well, the first I only thought this, but the first bit of sport I actually done was with Mark Barry with the wheelchair basketball in
Yeah.
Clontarf.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going. The first night I went up, I said to Robbie, "I can't do this. I can't do this." But he said you can, and Mark encouraged me every week to just do the training. Like, I'd never played because of my hand function, but just to
Yeah.
get the training in, to get your fitness good and stuff like that. And I went for months and months, and it was a big eye opener just to see them all playing together and all helping each other. It was just lovely. Do you know what I mean? And everyone was there for each other and stuff like that. So that was the start of my kind of getting involved with sports, and then playing bocce on a Saturday in RD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just to try and get, because I C6, C7 spinal cord injury, like my breathing was affected sometimes.
Okay.
But
Okay.
through playing sports and doing exercises, that it's like I don't have that problem anymore because of
Okay.
sport.
Okay, fabulous. And like,
Yeah.
look, Mark is one of my good friends, and but I'll say this publicly, not because he's one of my besties, but because I think he's so talented in terms of
Yeah.
the encouragement, and he's engaging and there are lots of people around the organization, and it speaks to the power of his scale, but also of sport, because I
Yes.
would often say, like, the sport is so important to help people understand that the world is still your oyster. It might be a
It
different
is.
oyster to the one you
Yeah.
thought of maybe 3 to 5 months previously, but there's no limitation to what you can
No,
achieve.
definitely not.
And I
No,
think
and that
sport is very much in that vein.
and then it can lead on to other bigger things. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It makes you progress all the time. So it
Yeah,
does.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
And then, sorry, go on.
just for a bit mental health around sport as well. It's like we're all normal, we're all the same. You're going to have good days and bad days. Life throws things at you and that. But where if you're involved with sport and exercise, it's great for the mental health. I will
Yeah,
say that. That's what
absolutely,
I find.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's actually not about you say this to someone who's competitive. It's not about the success, because everyone's just def,
Yeah.
definition of success is different. But if you say that to someone who's competitive, it doesn't matter whether
Like
you win or lose.
like
Then
you, John.
until you lose, then it doesn't matter. But that's the joy of sport. You can be at any level.
Yes, yes. And it's all about taking part as well and enjoying it. You have to enjoy it
There you
to,
go. If you're not
yeah,
doing that, if you're not doing that. So
yeah.
was that what led you to become an employee of Irish Realtor Association?
So I was involved with the RD Sports, and the Drogheda Centre used to provide the bus and
Yeah,
staff it as well. So I got involved through Geraldine Lennon. She was
yeah.
a coordinator, and Mildred Carroll, the two of them. And I was coming into the centre, and I was volunteering and stuff like that. Just doing little bits here and there, and
Mm,
going into the rock members and doing bingo and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. And then a few hours the session came up, and I applied for it. It was 10 hours at the time. I applied for it, went for the interview, and I got the job. So I did. So that was the start of it 7 years ago now. Yeah,
7 years.
November was
Wow.
7 years. Yeah, and I love every minute of it. So I started as administrator. So I did, but now I'm the rock team leader. So I'm over the rock.
Okay. So you're cracking the
Yeah.
whip.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
I get the sense with you, Nicola. It's a gentle whip. It's a gentle whip.
It is.
So, but
Oh,
but
definitely.
but one of the joys of working in Irish Realtor Association is that we've overcome that hurdle. I feel of that other companies and other organizations have of recognizing the talents and the diverse thinking of people with disabilities and other of coming into the organization and bringing that other perspective. I'd like to see more wheelchair users and people with disabilities in throughout the organization, and
Oh,
hopefully that will happen over time. Because I feel, as an advocate, it's really important to have disabled people in the organization. Like
definitely.
not only to give the very lived, real experience perspective, but also to have that broader perspective in everything we do. So and as a role model, Nicola, it's a
Definitely.
hugely important to the people who are now coming into whatever the service or work support that we provide, to see you, because you're
Yes.
now for someone else a beacon of what can be. And like you
Yeah.
look what you're achieving, it's amazing. And I'm going back to you going over to Disney and Star Wars Land. I'm so jealous. So how is that? I really am. And so that it was it then through IWA that you came into your passion about advocacy.
Yes, yes, and kind of through Oliver Murphy as well. And
Ah,
speaking,
Oliver,
yeah, legend, legend. But speaking
such
with
a man.
Oliver, yeah, brilliant. And then just through speaking with Oliver, and then we set up an access group here in Drogheda. So we did. So there was
Okay,
a few of us getting together every month, and just talking about the access issues in Drogheda, and then coming
okay,
up with a plan, going to the Louth County Council, and it just started from there. So it did, and now with COVID and that has slowed things down. Sorry.
yeah, okay,
So like people are not meeting as much, but there's still two, three of us there that's emailing every month and keeping on top of things and stuff like that. So there is, and still getting jobs done around the town and stuff. It's a bit slower, so it is, but we're getting them done. So we are
okay. And do
taking
you
time,
feel?
but we'll be
Yeah,
we'll be doing it for a long time. I do feel it's a fighting battle around access and parking bays and toilets and stuff. But I think as long as we're alive, we'll have to fight. I don't think it'll be ever perfect. Well, I know no country's perfect, but I think it'll always be a fighting game. To be honest with you.
okay. And I had this discussion with Joan Carthy in a discussion on Wednesday around I suppose, the frustrations of advocacy. That like we both work in the world. Advocacy for
Yeah,
okay, it means so many things to so many people, but
yeah,
really it's not only about the lobbying. It's also about having the courage to have your own voice heard, whether
heard.
it
Yeah.
well, and that could be at home. It doesn't necessarily need to be in Leinster
With the
House or
IWA, yeah, or
yeah, yeah,
anything like that. Yeah,
wherever that may be. So
yeah.
lobbying, communication, campaigning, but also just having the confidence to have your voice heard. But
To
I get
speak,
very
yeah,
frustrated that it takes so long. Is that one of the key frustrations that you have with advocacy?
yeah. It's that they don't listen sometimes. Like, and
Mm,
sometimes they'll promise the world to you, but they don't meet their expectations. You know what I mean? They
yeah,
don't
yeah.
meet air. Sorry, air. They need to listen more to us, and they need to take it on board. Maybe have, like, I know with the Louth County Council, I can't put them down load because they have done so much for us. So they have,
Okay. Well, that's good.
but I
That's
think
good to point out too.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, and even the traffic wardens in Drogheda here, there's three of them, and we've a great relationship with them. We've done numbers where if any of us see a misused parking bay or anything, all we have to do is give them a call, and they'll go and issue them a ticket. So we do have a good relationship with the Louth County Council, but I just think for every council in Ireland, they should have a specific disability officer or something where one person is dealing with the access issues or anything to do with disability or that. I do feel that, and that you're not
Okay.
just going from pillar to post, because I know with the Louth County Councils they're moved around a bit, so maybe you're dealing with one person one year and then they're moved and you have to go through it all with another person.
Okay.
Where there's a
Okay. So you're
specific
starting from
disability.
scratch. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So and then the more awareness as well. I think I don't understand why Louth County Council or any business don't get like contact disability groups and maybe getting an awareness day or awareness workshop. And we have tried that here in schools and that did work. But I just think around businesses and that, and county councils and that, maybe like do workshops,
Yeah.
disability awareness workshops.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned relationships there. How important do you think overall in terms of getting stuff done and changes and policies change, all the rest? How important is the relationship and all of that?
Yeah, you have to build a relationship with them. Like when you meet them at first and stuff like that, make the connection and keep the connection, and
Okay.
keep them in the loop as well. What's going on, and like even with us here, we would invite the Louth County Council to anything we're doing, maybe Christmas lunches and stuff like that. Or I do, and even with TDs, any TDs that help or any councillors or that, I would keep that relationship as well. So I would.
Okay, okay. Well, I suppose, look, we understand that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and Oliver, who you mentioned earlier on, is the giant of the IWA, but I think in the disability world. Now, if there ever was a man who could build a relationship and keep a relationship, it's
Uh,
Oliver, because I don't think I've ever
and
heard him say a bad word about anybody.
no, never. And you know what? One tip he always gave to me, and I always followed it. The first actually said, "Don't go in bullying. Don't go in angry. Go in with a friendly approach, because you won't get anywhere giving out and being angry." And it always stuck in my head. So any meetings or anything that you're going in looking for stuff or work done, go in with a friendly approach. And he was right, because it always worked for us. No point
Yeah,
going in.
yeah.
And as much as you are angry and you do want to give out in that, don't go in with that attitude.
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
really important point to anybody who really wants to get involved in local advocacy and start working. Like we've got disability action groups that we're starting up around the country, and we want disabled people to be front and center to all of that because it's their voice that needs to be heard, not the
Yeah.
organizations. So from that point of view, that's a really good tip. Don't go in angry.
Yeah.
You might be
No.
angry about it, but don't go in
Yeah.
angry but we could apply that to any walk of life. It
Yes.
actually, it's a great piece of life advice. Because
Oh, yeah.
if I'm annoyed with something in this house and I go into the kitchen angry, I'm going to be met with a defensive response back, and
Yeah.
that's not going to make my life any better, nor it's going
Either.
to
No.
change anything. How important do you think attitudes are? How?
Oh, very important. Very important.
Okay.
Like my attitude or the person you're dealing with.
Well, your attitude is obvious. I would say is obviously in the right place
Yes.
because you've got
Yes.
you're tough, but you do it with a smile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the people's attitudes towards people who have disabilities, disabled people.
Oh, it's a long. Yeah. No, there's still but there's not enough awareness. Is unless you're
Okay.
dealt with, you have a disability, or you have a family member, or do you know what I mean? I think it's more about the not knowing. As I said before my accident, John, I wouldn't have had a clue, and I do think that has a lot to do with it. I do think
Okay.
if you understand it and you know about it, you will be more compassionate about towards people with disabilities. Like if you look at that campaign we done there a couple of years ago, the Back and Five campaign, and
Yeah.
I done that in the town, And it was more the younger people that were abusive to you and why are you taking our parking space and stuff like that, where the older people had a more of understanding of it. So
Okay,
they
yeah.
are where
Mm.
the younger generation kind of they were rude and stuff like that. So I think it's more about awareness. If you know about disability or you know a person, you understand more.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that we have to do the back and five campaign every year,
Yeah, I
me,
always said an
yeah.
annual. I would do it in that. I do it annually. So I would.
It
I
is.
thought it was a great campaign.
Yeah, it is a great campaign because when you're getting the reaction um of people getting annoyed, why are you taking my space? That's what you want because you want
Yeah,
people to understand what
yeah.
we go through. But you think that the fact that we have to do it every year means it's not getting through.
Um, yeah, probably. But maybe if you've done it for a few years, and
Mm.
see then have see does it work then after the few years? Maybe every centre, every county do it on the same day. Do it
Yes,
on the
yeah,
same
yeah.
day and every year, maybe for 2 years, and see. Because I think it is the younger generation that don't understand. And maybe if you get the message out there, then they might take it on board.
Yeah, and
For
and
new age.
I suppose that leads me on to it. The next question is, like, I get Oliver's advice, and it's a great piece of life advice. Go in happy and go in with a smile on your face. Don't be angry. But do you think there comes a point that we have to get angry? That
Well,
that if At what point
in
does that
some
arrive? Yeah,
in some situations, into meetings dealing with the council is different than meeting someone who's after taking your disabled parking bay just to
yeah,
sit in a car. Now that's where you'd get angry. But then you have, like, I've been in a situation where someone took a disabled parking bay and I just asked them to move and they got angry with me and came after me and I had to drive the car off. So it's a
yeah,
hard situation.
and that,
Do you know?
yeah, yeah, it is hard, and that's where I think we
Yeah,
need allies. I think allyship is important, I suppose, in the sense that look for this change to happen. I feel that when somebody sees that happen, it's up to everybody to become your ally, not just other people with
just
disabilities. It's to
abilities,
the
yeah,
person who's walking down the path and sees it happen, is to come up
happening.
and be your support network to say that's not acceptable. And the more of
Acceptable.
that can happen, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you there. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
How do you feel about the word disability?
Yeah, I'm okay with the word disability. I don't mind a person with a disability, so I
Okay,
don't. I don't
okay,
mind that word. Yeah,
because not everybody
or
identifies with the word.
yes,
Um,
or even with in a group of that we to say here in Drogheda, the disabled community.
yes, yeah, and I
Yeah,
think people have a fear of the word, not because of the word itself, but because of all the connotations that come with it, the lack of expectation for what we could achieve, and the
yeah,
lack of belief that we have potential, I suppose the medical outlook out the God, the that we need to be looked after rather than treated as
yes, yes.
equals and all that. And I think
Equal,
people are
yeah,
terrified of being put in a box. Do you ever think
yeah.
we'll come to a point where I ask this question of everybody, where we'll have a world without the word disability?
Oh, that's a hard one, John. That is a hard one. Um, That is a hard one. I don't know because at the end of the day, we've great ability.
Mm,
People with
yeah.
disabilities, it's more like ability even to put the ability word in cap locks in disability because our ability is better. My motto is my ability is stronger than my disability.
Yeah, and I don't want people to ignore our disability because it's a part of who we are.
Yeah,
It's nothing to
yeah,
be it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a
you know,
dirty word. It's nothing that we need
no,
to gloss over or avoid, but it's not all that
yeah,
we are. It's very
no,
obvious that it's not all that you are. It frames a perspective that you have, but that's all it does. After that, I'm more interested in the Nicola, in Letitia, in the Keanu relationship,
yeah,
in you going to Disney. I'm sorry to bring it up again. But all of that, if there's a free spot, I'll go. But all of that type of stuff, there's so much more, and
yeah.
I think that's where that discussion. It's a real hot potato of a discussion at the moment. Um, so, what advice would you give to young people? Because you're still closer to, to their age group than the older people. So, what would you say to them?
Just never give up the fight. And if you're going to get setbacks in life, So just keep at them. Any goals you have, follow them through till you get them, and never give up.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
never let anyone put you down, and never let anyone say you can't. Don't listen to that word can't. You can always do.
Yeah, 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 and it's very strong. It's very strong advice. Like, I suppose, what is there anything that you would love for the general population to know about being a person who has a disability?
Say that again, John. Now, just
So, is there
like
one thing? Is there anything that you'd love the general population to know about being a person with a disability?
yeah, that there is life. Like for my, I know our situations are different because you
Mm,
were born, I had an accident, but
mm,
there is life with a disability. There is so much out there for people with disabilities if you go looking, and one thing can lead into another. Like as I started in the IWA, but I'm involved with other things and other organisations.
mm.
You know, it's not just the IWA, so it's not, and it just to get involved with it and never say no to anything. Say yes. It doesn't matter what it is. Say yes. You'll do it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We had, as I mentioned, I had the talk with Joan Carthy on Wednesday, and she's now done two parachute jumps, and we're afraid to tell her that to mention parachute jumps to her again because she'll probably do it, and she broke
I'm
her
doing
legs on
one
the
in
second one.
I'm doing one in April. So I am.
Fabulous,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. For the
fabulous.
branch, for Oliver's branch. So I am.
I'm
Yeah.
too afraid. I'm a big scaredy cat. I'd be
Oh,
terrified to
oh, I
jump out
love
of
that. Oh, I'll be
oh,
on all
you're
the
a
roller
hardcore.
coasters. Oh, I love all that. Oh,
Do you? Oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah,
you've got a screw
yeah.
loose, definitely.
Oh, we'll say that anyway.
So tell me, what inspires you on a day to day? What motivates you? What keeps you with
Oh, when I
the
see
outlook?
when I see other people like with disabilities and the work they do and the stories you read about them, how inspirational they are. There's like Hannah the Warrior Princess, a little lady here in Drogheda. She's 21 and she does the Thai show appeal for the Lord's Hospital. And
Yeah.
she does it every year. And she just things like that inspire me. And you
Okay.
know, young kids coming up and doing all these charity events and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
what inspired me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's back to the thing about the definition of success we spoke at in I suppose the sporting context. But sometimes people feel that as a person with a disability, you have to be achieving to the ultimate level of climbing mountains and
Not at all.
deep sea diving and all the rest. And if you want to do that, knock yourself out. But
Yeah.
it's not the definition of success for everybody, and nor should
No.
everybody be measured by that.
It's about taking part and enjoyment and
Absolutely. So
making friends.
what is your biggest achievement?
My biggest achievement today is 8 years ago I set up the Warriors on Wheels kind of social club
Yeah.
because when I joined the IWA in Drogheda, now no disrespect to old people, but I just found it was older members, and even though they're
Okay.
mad as brushes and you have great crack with them, they're gas. But I just found there was nothing for the younger people of Drogheda with
Okay.
disabilities to come. So I spoke to Geraldine and then about maybe setting up an evening kind of club thing, and I
Yeah.
set up the Warriors on Wheels. It was a social club, but through that we set up then an exercise class every week, and like we're the first kettlebells disabled group to do a class, like to do classes,
Mm,
and we got an instructor in and stuff like that. And to this day, it's still going 8 years on, and we've a lovely mini gym down there, lovely
brilliant.
equipment. We
Love it.
fundraised over the years, and it's great setup. You've still 7 to 10 people coming every week, 8 years on. So just to keep it going.
Fabulous. Yeah, and it's an amazing. So do you know what, Nicola? You're a real go-getter. It's great to just chat to you because you're a real doer. And no matter what it is, as you said, you started off at 17. You were a single mom, but you went out there. You went to college. You did your leaving cert. You went to and started saving for your own place. Then you started again, if for want of a better
Yeah.
term. And now look at you. You're out there. You're a huge force for change in a positive way in your community, and you're doing so much stuff. I think it's look. I think in terms of role models, you're fabulous.
Thank
You're
you.
absolutely fabulous. And now, see, if you were put in, given that you're a real doer, if we put you into the role of a Taoiseach for the day, what would be the one thing that you would change?
Well, I don't know where to start on that because you'd have loads to do. So you know what? But the one of the biggest kind of things would be to build more accessible houses. There's not enough accessible houses in the country. So there's not, because I'd
Okay.
be around listening to, like, obviously I live in Drogheda, so there's a few I know that's on the waiting list and stuff like that. And even that people, the ones that are in houses and trying to get adaptations and stuff like done, they're waiting weeks and then jobs are not done right. They're getting builders in and the ramps are not done properly. Like I've come across this a bit. So around housing there needs to be a lot of work done. So that would be
Okay,
the main
okay,
thing.
that would be your thing, and
Yeah,
an important one too. But as you say, there's so much,
especially for
absolutely so much.
yeah, the younger generation. Like there's a good lot of young chaps and women I'd know, and actually through probably the basketball and stuff like that. But for them coming up and not waiting 10, 11 years for an accessible house, disgrace.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
So, and I was, it's amazing. I was talking earlier on during the week to Paddy Slattery, who had starred in the play No Magic Pill, which was celebrating the life of Martin Nocton, who was an
Oh yes,
advocate, Martin, who was a
yeah,
fabulous advocate who passed away recently. And one of the
yeah.
questions I had asked Paddy was, where do you see the next Martin Nocton coming from? And he said, there mightn't be one Martin Nocton, there might be many not Martin Noctons, many people who've learned and taken up that mantle. And do you know what? Chatting to you today, Nicola, you're one of those. You're
Oh,
one of those that
hopefully,
you're one of those that is taking up the mantle and the following down the journey that Oliver and Martin
yeah.
um started
And
many
that's
years ago.
a lot of this comes from all of it, a lot of support and peer support. You'd ring them and every week just for a chat, but you always get something from them, always learn
Yeah,
something
and
from
look,
them. You
what a
know,
fitting way to just to end our conversations and our Facebook lives of this year celebrating International Day of Persons with Disabilities by celebrating you, but also by celebrating Oliver, who's the giant on whose shoulders we sit. And
definitely.
look, and Oliver's legacy continues now as in Irish Wheelchair Association, but also in someone like you. So.
Yeah,
I think what a
definitely.
great way to finish. So, Nicola, thank you so much for being willing to talk to us today, and it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. And look, best of luck with Disney. I mean that. I'm going to
And I'll
be
send you some
plaguing you.
photos.
Don't.
Thanks
It'll
for
it'll
having me,
drive me
John.
mad. Thanks a million. It's been an absolute
Thanks
pleasure.
for having me. Take care.
Okay. See you, Nicola. Bye bye.
Bye bye.